The markets have a shock reaction to what happened in the US?
Oh, good afternoon, Natasha. Indeed, you've just said it there. Markets generally, investors generally expected a Clinton Democratic win yesterday, but of course that didn't happen. We had an unexpected shock, as some analysts put it, of a Donald Trump presidential victory. Now, you've pretty much summed up all the major components when we measure the reaction to this vote. You spoke about oil, you spoke about currencies in the emerging markets, but let's just take a look at one of the first markets to close after this announcement. In Asia, we saw the Japanese Nikkei slumping 5.8%, the Hang Seng down 3.5%. We know that US markets are still to open, but their futures are also pretty much down. Now, why is this happening? Well, it's one key word here called uncertainty. Investors and markets are familiar with the democratic principles or themes and policies. Donald Trump has not been in government before. They're pretty much unclear in terms of how he will execute policy in the US, so that uncertainty prevails. But one measure which you've mentioned again in your intro was gold. Now, gold is something that investors run to as a safe haven. So once that rises, you pretty much can ascertain how the behavior of the investor is unfolding. Gold jumping 4.1%. This is investors run to go ahead and buy it. So if you're trying to measure how global markets basically reacted, you look at those key things. Gold, you look at oil, which is down, gold up, and emerging currencies, of course, hitting pretty much of a big slump.
All right, let's look at the local market and the currency. We saw the rand opening lower to the dollar this morning.
Yeah, so if you look at the JSE overall, 1.5% down as a reaction to what happened in the US, but it's moving in and out of positive territory. Key components of the JSE, we look at that gold component once more, and the likes of Harmony Gold, Anglo Gold Ashanti, Goldfields, all raising their shares north of 10%. And once again, it's that safe haven component that we're looking at there. Coming back to the rand, you've mentioned it. It took a bit of a slump when we opened up at 9 o'clock this morning. At 10 o'clock, 2.1% down. It was 13.46. We are now sitting at 13 rand 55. And again, it's a shift away from riskier assets. So, no, we're reacting negatively, but I think at the course of the afternoon, we'll be able to measure the true extent to which our markets and our currencies locally reacted to this victory.
All right, so you say that, but Dev, what are the immediate concerns for South Africa's economy and business at this stage?
Well, look, it's all about how we trade with the United States at the moment, not just South Africa, but other emerging markets. And the free trade duty deal, AGOA, is the big one that comes to mind. This is a duty-free access for some of our products in the United States. So given Trump's policies and given the policies that we were used to in the Democratic dispensation or administration, we knew where we were going there. So I think all eyes are going to be on what happens with AGOA. How will Trump receive this going forward? We've seen him speak in his acceptance speech earlier to this morning, I think just after that announcement, and he says he wants to treat all his partnerships with countries quite fairly. That's the word he uses, quote unquote. So it would be interesting to see if this fairness really comes out in our future negotiations on AGOA. Patrick Gaspard, I believe you had a clip with him just a few moments before you crossed to me. He again once alluded this morning when asked for comment. He says that, well, we must remember that Americans have increasingly begun to understand that what happens in Africa and emerging markets across the world affects the United States, and they're beginning to digest that now. So in that vein, it's unlikely that we'll see major shifts in their relations with emerging markets. I would imagine that includes South Africa as well.
Very interesting. SABC business anchor Devan Murugan live from the JSE. Thank you very much.